Attention, Lions fans. Urgent information is coming. You're in the right place to stay up to date. But before you continue, leave a like to strengthen the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe right now so you don't miss any news. Now hold on tight, because we have exclusive news about our team that will surprise everyone and get everyone talking. You can't miss any of this explosive information. So, let's get straight to the point. The 2025 NFL Draft is fast approaching, and the eyes of Lions fans are more attentive than ever. After a historic season in 2024, where Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' team simply broke all possible franchise records, winning 15 games, winning the NFC North title for the second year in a row, and still securing the #1 seed in the playoffs, the expectation could not be anything other than reaching the Super Bowl. But, unfortunately, things went wrong in the playoffs. Defensive injuries have taken a toll on the roster, and the team, which seemed unbeatable during the regular season, was surprisingly dominated by the Commanders in the divisional round. It was a tough, frustrating elimination that raised a red flag. Despite being in a golden phase in the Lions' history, there is still work to be done. And that is precisely why the 2025 offseason has become a real war operation in Detroit. Specific signings, strategic renewals, and, of course, special attention to the draft. But in this video, instead of talking about who the Lions should draft, we go the other way, who they should avoid at all costs. That's right. We will highlight 3 players that the Detroit Lions simply cannot select in the 2025 draft, whether due to a bad fit in the tactical scheme, off-field issues, or even simply a lack of need. And you will understand exactly why. So watch until the end, because the justifications may surprise you. Let's start with a name that has divided analysts' opinions. James Pierce Jr., edge rusher for the University of Tennessee. Many people see Pierce as a natural talent, a pass rusher with killer instincts and impressive numbers. But what needs to be said, and what many may ignore, is that he simply doesn't fit into the Lions' defensive system. In Tennessee, Pierce played in the LEO role, a hybrid position that relies heavily on lateral mobility and standing play, often even before the snap. He thrives in 3-4 schemes, where the edge has more freedom to move, improvise, and attack the quarterback aggressively. But the Detroit Lions operate in a 4-3 scheme, with a total focus on discipline, reading, and mainly run containment. The edge rusher who plays in Detroit needs to be solid against the ground game, know how to seal the edge, and keep the structure of the defense intact. And that's exactly where Pierce slips up. He struggles against the run, isn't consistent in containment, and still has serious doubts about his commitment off the field. Yes, we're talking about yet another prospect with a history of character issues. Dan Campbell himself has made it clear that the team will no longer tolerate off-field distractions, even if the raw talent is there. Remember Jalen Carter, who was ignored by the Lions even though he was one of the most dominant players in the class. If they passed on a talent of that caliber because of his character, imagine what they'll do with Pierce, who still doesn't fit into the defensive scheme. Even if he's available at pick 28, the truth is that it would be a huge mistake to bring in a player who can be a time bomb off the field and who doesn't even meet the franchise's tactical requirements. The good news? The 2025 draft is full of more ready, more complete edge rushers with fewer question marks on their records. The second name on the list is a choice that seems absurd at first glance, but it's worth reinforcing because the hype can fool a lot of people. We're talking about Ollie Gordon II, running back from Oklahoma State. Yes, the guy had a monstrous season in 2023, with more than 1,700 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns. But that's exactly where the danger lies. First, the Lions don't need a running back. With Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery on the roster, Detroit has it all sorted at the position. Gibbs, affectionately nicknamed Sonic, is a dual threat, running and receiving, while Montgomery, the knuckles of the duo, is that reliable power back who always gets the tough yards. And the chemistry between them only tends to improve. To make the situation even more solid, Craig Reynolds remains on the roster, as well as Sione Vaki, who was drafted last year and could be an offensive wild card. In other words, there's no room nor need to spend a pick on RB. But back to Gordon. Besides the total lack of need, there is another problem. he regressed a lot in 2024. His production dropped drastically to 880 yards and 13 touchdowns. This raised a red flag among NFL scouts. And to make matters worse, he was arrested for DUI in the summer of 2024, which raised even more doubts about his maturity and ability to stay focused. So, we have a player who has plummeted in production, who has made mistakes off the field, and who would come to compete for space at a position that is already crowded and very well served. If that is not enough reason to completely cross him off the Lions board, I don't know what is. With so many good running backs available, no team needs to take a chance on Gordon. And for Detroit, this choice would be a catastrophe in terms of roster management. Rounding out our list, we have a name that might even make some sense at first glance, especially considering Alim McNeill's injury. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Mississippi. Nolan is strong, has good explosiveness, and could, theoretically, help fill a temporary gap in the interior of the defensive line. But let's take it easy. First, the Lions roster is deeper than one might think at that position. In addition to veteran DJ Reader, who came in to be the pillar of the defensive line, the team also has Broderick Martin, Roy Lopez, Mekhi Wingo, and Levi Onwuzurike. All are young, promising players capable of holding down the fort while McNeill recovers from a torn ACL. Using a first-round pick. And yes, Nolan should go in the first round. At a position where the team already has depth would be a strategic mistake, especially when you consider that Nolan himself also brings, guess what? That's right, off-field concerns. According to MSN analyst Ryan Roberts, there are doubts about the player's attitude and mentality outside of the game environment. And as we said before, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have already made it clear that the character factor will be a fundamental filter in the selection process. If the Lions really want to bolster their defensive line with young, immediately impactful talent, it would make much more sense to invest in a name like Derek Harmon, who is not only productive, but also has the ideal profile to thrive in the highly demanding environment of Detroit. Ultimately, the NFL draft is as much about who you pick as it is about who you avoid. The Lions are at a defining moment in their history, a point where every pick matters, every decision has consequences. With a strong roster, a well-defined system, and a culture built on sweat and discipline, there is no room for risky bets or players who don't fit into the mix. James Pierce Jr., Ollie Gordon II, and Walter Nolan may shine on other teams, but for Detroit, they represent unnecessary risks. And avoiding these mistakes could be the key to ensuring that, in 2025, the Lions not only repeat last season's success, but finally reach the Super Bowl. And who knows, bring the long-awaited title to the city that never gave up on them. So what did you think? Comment below. I want to hear your opinion. And if you enjoyed the content, leave a like. This really helps the channel to continue growing and bringing everything about our beloved Detroit Lions. If you are not part of the community yet, subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching so far, and we'll see you in the next video. See you soon.